The world thought they knew Prince Harry. Charming, relatable, a modern royal trying to break free from centuries of rigid tradition. But in the last few weeks, everything we believed about him and his family has been thrown into question. The shocking revelation he just leaked about his children, Archie and Lilibet, has sent shockwaves through the royal family, the media, and fans around the globe. And the details? They are not just surprising, they are potentially explosive. Imagine for a moment the images you've seen of the Sussex family over the years. Harry, standing proudly beside Meghan, laughing with Archie in the gardens of Frogmore Cottage. Gentle moments that felt authentic, warm, and undeniably real. Now, imagine those images hiding a secret so deep that it could redefine everything you thought you knew about them. That secret is exactly what Prince Harry has just put into the public eye. And the question on everyone's mind is simple but terrifying. Why now? Why reveal this information at this very moment, when the stakes are so high? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The truth about Archie and Lilibet is more complicated than the fairy tale images of royal children attending garden parties and Christmas services. According to sources close to the family, and what Harry himself has indicated in private interviews, the children were born through surrogacy. That revelation alone is enough to send ripples through the monarchy, but it is the context, the timing, and the personal motivations behind Harry's disclosure that make this story even more gripping. The world is obsessed with royal children. From the moment Archie was born, paparazzi lenses followed every movement. The fascination has never waned, and now, with Lilibet joining the narrative, curiosity has only intensified. But why is this revelation so shocking? Surrogacy is legal, practiced around the world, and in many cases, deeply personal and private. Yet, when it intersects with a family as scrutinized as the Sussexes, every detail becomes a matter of public fascination. Every rumor is amplified, every suggestion dissected. And when the man at the center of it, Prince Harry himself, chooses to leak the information, the world sits up and takes notice. But there's more to this story than a simple headline. It's not just about the fact that Harry revealed his children were born through surrogacy. It's about why this revelation comes now, what it says about the internal dynamics of the royal family, and how it could reshape public perception of Meghan and Harry. The royal institution has survived scandal after scandal over centuries. Yet, the combination of media scrutiny, public fascination, and a meticulously controlled image has never encountered a situation quite like this. Let's pause and consider Harry's position. He is a man who has struggled with the weight of his royal identity for years. From the very beginning, he expressed discomfort with the rigid protocols, the constant scrutiny, and the media's relentless pursuit of personal details. He has made brave, controversial decisions, stepping back from royal duties, moving across the Atlantic, creating a life that allows for more personal freedom. But freedom comes at a price. Every choice is magnified. Every misstep becomes a global story. And now, with the revelation about Archie and Lilibet, he has taken a step that could be seen as both courageous and reckless. Why would Harry leak such intimate details about his own children? Was it to control the narrative, to preempt rumors, or perhaps to expose what he sees as injustices within the royal institution? Or could it be a more personal decision? One driven by a desire to protect his family by setting the record straight before someone else does? The answer is likely a combination of all three, but the consequences are immediate, intense, and unavoidable. Public reaction is already shaping up to be extreme. Social media is ablaze with speculation, news outlets are scrambling to analyze every detail, and commentators from around the world are weighing in. Some argue that this is a bold act of transparency, a moment in which Harry asserts control over the narrative of his own family. Others view it as a breach of privacy, a revelation that puts his children in the center of public scrutiny before they are old enough to understand it. And somewhere in the middle, there is a complex debate about personal freedom, parental rights, and the pressures of public life. At the same time, this revelation raises uncomfortable questions about the royal family's reaction. How did the Queen respond? What was Prince Charles thinking? Did William know? And if so, how does this change their already tense dynamic? The monarchy is built on tradition, image, and secrecy, and the sudden disclosure of such a deeply personal matter has undoubtedly caused ripples that will not fade anytime soon. Those within the palace walls are likely grappling with more than just media fallout. They are dealing with the emotional, relational, and institutional consequences of Harry's decision to go public. And yet, for all the shock and speculation, there is also a human story at the heart of this revelation. Harry and Meghan are parents trying to navigate a life of extreme public scrutiny while protecting the innocence and well-being of their children. Every decision they make is filtered through the lens of global attention, every private moment potentially headline news. The choice to reveal the surrogacy of Archie and Lilibet can be seen as an attempt to reclaim some control, to assert a narrative before the tabloids define it for them. But with control comes responsibility, and responsibility comes with scrutiny that will likely follow them for years to come. This is also a story about timing. Why now? What recent events might have prompted Harry to speak out? Was it a media leak that forced his hand? A legal maneuver? Or perhaps a deeply personal decision, one tied to his evolving relationship with the royal family, Meghan, and the public at large? Whatever the reason, the timing adds a layer of intrigue, making this more than just a simple revelation. It becomes a strategic, emotionally charged move that could have lasting implications. As we begin to unpack this story, there are a few key points to keep in mind. First, the revelation itself is only part of the narrative. The reactions, both public and private, are equally significant. Second, understanding the historical context of the royal family, the pressures of public life, and Harry's personal journey is crucial to grasping the full impact. And finally, the emotional stakes cannot be understated. This is about family, trust, privacy, and the intersection of personal choice with public expectation. By the end of this video, viewers will understand not just what Harry revealed, but why it matters, how it could reshape the royal narrative, and what the future might hold for Archie, Lilibet, and the Sussexes as a family. But before we get there, we need to dive deeper into the sequence of events, the leaks, the reactions, and the shocking details that make this story so compelling. And the first piece of that puzzle is understanding how the perfect public image of the Sussex family, the smiles, the garden parties, the stage photographs, was carefully constructed. Because behind the image lies a narrative far more complex and far more explosive than anyone could have anticipated. What was Harry thinking when he allowed this secret to slip? And what comes next will leave the world questioning everything they thought they knew about the royal family. From the very first time Archie Harrison stepped into the world, the public was captivated. Cameras flashed, headlines blared, and royal watchers around the globe collectively sighed at the sight of the new prince cradled in his mother's arms. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were the modern fairy tale couple, the charming, relatable pair who seemed to have broken free from the cold, rigid expectations of the royal institution. But as captivating as the public image was, it was carefully curated. Every smile, every appearance, every seemingly spontaneous moment was the result of meticulous planning. Public perception has always mattered to the royal family. For centuries, their power has rested not only on their titles, but also on the stories told about them. A happy, smiling family is a symbol of continuity and stability, a living emblem of the monarchy's supposed charm and grace. And for Meghan and Harry, who stepped into the limelight under enormous pressure, maintaining that image was not just important, it was necessary. The world had high expectations, and the couple knew that any misstep would be amplified, dissected, and criticized relentlessly. But here's the thing about images: they can be deceiving. Every candid photograph, every viral video, every carefully staged interview paints a picture that can hide more than it reveals. And the truth, as Prince Harry has now begun to leak, is far more complicated than the public has ever imagined. For years, fans, commentators, and royal enthusiasts have assumed that Archie and Lilibet were born through traditional means. That assumption is no longer safe. Imagine the pressure that comes with being constantly watched, judged, and compared to previous generations of royals. Imagine the scrutiny that every decision, every comment, every Instagram post attracts. Now, layer on the personal and private struggles that Harry and Meghan have faced, internal family tensions, relentless tabloid attacks, and public criticism that at times borders on cruelty. In that context, the perfect image of a happy, smiling family was not just an image. It was a defense mechanism, a shield against the world. The Sussexes' public appearances were always calculated. There were the iconic photographs, Archie's christening, birthday celebrations, and the quiet moments in the gardens of Frogmore Cottage. They showed a loving, engaged family. They suggested normalcy and warmth, a modern take on royal life. But behind the scenes, sources indicate, there was an entirely different narrative. A narrative where decisions were made under extreme pressure, where privacy was a constant battle, and where the stakes were far higher than anyone outside those walls could ever imagine. And then came Lilibet, the second child, whose arrival further intensified scrutiny. The birth of a second child in any family is monumental, but when the parents are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, it is a global event. Every detail, from hospital choices to the timing of public announcements, was meticulously managed. For the couple, each decision had to balance personal desire with public expectation, an impossible balancing act that few could ever fully understand. The perfect family image was never just about appearances. It was also about controlling narratives, preempting rumors, and shaping how the world perceived them. Meghan and Harry were acutely aware that in the world of royals, stories could spin out of control in seconds. One careless leak, one misinterpreted comment, and suddenly, the public believed a narrative that might have been entirely false. In that context, secrecy became not just a choice, but a survival strategy. But secrecy is a double-edged sword. While it can protect, it can also create tension, mistrust, and pressure behind closed doors. Sources close to the family suggest that the couple's private life was tightly guarded, not only from the media, but also from extended members of the royal family. Every visit, every phone call, every family gathering was monitored, often leaving Harry and Meghan in a constant state of negotiation between personal privacy and public expectation. Now, Harry has disrupted that carefully constructed balance. By leaking information about Archie and Lilibet's surrogacy, he has shattered the illusion of a perfect family image that has been presented to the public for years. This revelation is not just a small detail. It fundamentally challenges everything the public thought they knew about the Sussexes. People are now questioning, if the children were born through surrogacy, what else might be hidden behind the polished photographs and warm smiles? And yet, the emotional complexity of this situation cannot be overstated. On one hand, Harry and Meghan are parents trying to navigate a world of extreme scrutiny while protecting the innocence of their children. On the other hand, they are figures in a centuries-old institution where image, perception, and tradition carry enormous weight. By revealing the surrogacy, Harry has taken a risk, one that exposes not only himself and Meghan to criticism, but also places Archie and Lilibet squarely in the center of public fascination. Consider for a moment the reactions that will ripple out from this revelation. Supporters will praise the couple for transparency, for challenging outdated norms, and for asserting control over their family's narrative. Critics will question the decision, arguing that revealing such intimate details of a child's birth may be inappropriate, even reckless. Social media will explode with speculation, conspiracy theories, and personal opinions from every corner of the globe. And amid all of this, the children themselves remain completely innocent, unaware of the storm that surrounds them. The contrast between the public image and the hidden reality is stark. On one side, carefully crafted photographs, staged appearances, and warm, relatable messaging. On the other, a private life that includes legal battles, family tensions, media manipulation, and now, surrogacy revelations. The tension between these two realities has always been present, but Harry's disclosure has made that tension unavoidable. The perfect family image is no longer intact. It has been pierced, and the world is now seeing cracks where none were visible before. What makes this revelation even more dramatic is the timing. Harry has long been known for his careful approach to communication. He has released interviews, written memoirs, and appeared on podcasts, all while weighing how each statement might be received by the public and the palace alike. That he has now chosen to reveal such intimate details about his children suggests a decision born of necessity, strategy, or perhaps frustration. But it also opens a floodgate of questions. Why now? What prompted him to break the silence? And what consequences, both personal and public, will follow in the wake of this disclosure? And there is a deeper emotional layer that cannot be ignored. Harry and Meghan's decision to have children in the first place was laden with pressure and scrutiny. Every choice, from timing to location to public announcement, was analyzed. Their children, while adored by the public, were also pawns in a complex game of perception and expectation. The revelation of surrogacy reframes this narrative, suggesting that the couple may have taken extraordinary measures to protect their family, their privacy, and ultimately, their sanity. By leaking this information, Harry has shifted the narrative from one of polished perfection to one of complexity, struggle, and human imperfection. This is a family dealing with the same pressures that many of us face in private, but amplified by the fact that every action is public, every detail scrutinized, and every decision analyzed in real time. The result is a story that is as much about human resilience as it is about scandal. And yet, even with this new transparency, questions remain. How will the palace respond? What will William and Charles say, if anything? How will the media cover this in the coming days and weeks? And perhaps most importantly, how will this revelation shape the lives of Archie and Lilibet as they grow up in the shadow of a global audience? These questions hang in the air, unanswered, as the world grapples with a revelation that has changed everything. The perfect family image, carefully curated over years of public appearances, photographs, and interviews, has been shattered. In its place is a narrative that is raw, complicated, and undeniably human. Harry's leaks have exposed the pressures, contradictions, and difficult decisions that come with being both a modern parent and a member of one of the world's most scrutinized families. And while the full implications of this revelation are still unfolding, one thing is clear: the public's perception of the Sussex family will never be the same. It all began quietly, almost imperceptibly, with interviews and offhand comments that seemed innocent at first glance. Prince Harry had long maintained a careful public persona, charming, self-aware, and occasionally rebellious, but never reckless. Every word he spoke was measured, calculated, and filtered through decades of royal protocol. But beneath that controlled exterior, a storm was brewing. A storm that would culminate in the revelation that would shock the world. Archie and Lilibet were born through surrogacy. The first hints of Harry breaking the silence came in interviews where he spoke vaguely about family, parenthood, and the pressures of royal life. Observers noted a subtle shift in tone, a willingness to reveal more of himself than ever before. He talked about the difficulties of protecting children in the public eye, the strain of balancing personal happiness with institutional expectation, and the challenge of navigating a world where privacy was almost non-existent. It was in these moments, between the carefully scripted lines, that the first cracks appeared in the facade of royal perfection. But the leaks weren't accidental. They were deliberate, calculated moves that slowly, piece by piece, revealed a picture that had previously been hidden. Harry has always understood the power of narrative, the ability to frame a story, control a message, and shape public perception. By releasing information incrementally, he could gauge reaction, adjust strategy, and maintain some measure of control over how the world perceived his family. What makes this strategy so effective and so shocking is the content itself. For years, tabloids and social media speculated endlessly about Meghan, Harry, and their children. Rumors ranged from the mundane to the bizarre. Questions about the children's appearances, speculation about family dynamics, even whispers about health and well-being. By leaking the truth about surrogacy himself, Harry not only seized control of the narrative, but also preempted misinformation, cutting off speculation at its source. Yet, doing so was risky. Any disclosure, no matter how measured, could be seen as a betrayal by the very institution he had vowed to respect. Or worse, could ignite criticism from those who believe such private matters should never be revealed. The first major leak came in an interview that, at the time, seemed innocuous. Harry spoke about the challenges of parenting under extreme public scrutiny. He hinted at the lengths he and Meghan went to in order to protect their children, using carefully chosen words that suggested hidden truths without fully revealing them. Observers noted the subtlety. Every phrasing, every pause, Every anecdote seemed designed to hint at a deeper story, one that the public had yet to uncover. Following that initial interview, other leaks began to surface, some through traditional media outlets, others through social media. Leaked quotes, anonymous sources, and insider commentary all contributed to a growing sense that Harry was preparing the public for a revelation of unprecedented scope. Fans and commentators alike began to sense that something monumental was on the horizon. It's important to understand the context of these leaks. Harry's relationship with the media has been fraught for years. Tabloids have relentlessly pursued stories about his personal life, Meghan's background, and the children's daily activities. The couple has taken legal action on multiple occasions to protect their privacy. Against this backdrop, the leaks about surrogacy can be seen as both a defensive and offensive strategy. A way to reclaim agency over the narrative while also controlling potential fallout before it escalates. There's also a human element that cannot be ignored. Harry and Meghan are parents, and their decisions are rooted in a desire to protect their children. The choice to go public with the surrogacy revelation was likely motivated by a combination of personal conviction and strategic calculation. On one hand, they wanted to assert transparency, to clarify facts before misinformation spread. On the other, they needed to safeguard the well-being of Archie and Lilibet, ensuring that the children's story was told with care and context, rather than being distorted by tabloid sensationalism. One of the most compelling aspects of these leaks is the timing. They coincided with a period of heightened attention on the Sussexes, new interviews, ongoing media coverage of royal events, and public speculation about their future projects and initiatives. By choosing this moment, Harry ensured that his revelation would command attention, dominate headlines, and be discussed extensively on social media platforms around the world. The timing was strategic, and it amplified the impact of the disclosure, making it virtually impossible to ignore. Another key factor in understanding the leaks is the subtle interplay between public image and personal truth. Harry has long navigated the tension between his identity as a royal and his desire for a private, autonomous life. Every interview, every public statement, every carefully crafted message represents an attempt to reconcile these two worlds. The surrogacy revelation is the culmination of that effort, a moment where personal truth overtakes public expectation, where transparency eclipses traditional discretion. Of course, leaks like these are not without consequence. Within the royal family, reactions are complex, emotional, and sometimes tense. Sources indicate that senior members of the monarchy are aware of the disclosures and are attempting to manage both the internal and external fallout. Trust is delicate in the palace, and information that bypasses traditional channels can cause friction, resentment, or even outright conflict. Harry's decision to leak these details represents a bold move, one that challenges conventional protocols and tests the boundaries of family loyalty. The public's response has been equally intense. Social media exploded with speculation, debates, and opinions. Commentators dissected every word, analyzed body language, and compared these disclosures to historical precedents. Some hailed Harry as courageous, applauding him for taking control of the narrative and protecting his children. Others criticized him, arguing that revealing such intimate details about his family was unnecessary, even damaging. The conversation became polarized, reflecting the complex emotional landscape surrounding the royal family and the pressures of modern celebrity. What makes the story even more intriguing are the contradictions that arise in the leaks themselves. In some interviews, Harry emphasized the importance of privacy, urging the public to respect his children's space. In others, he provided tantalizing hints about hidden truths, sparking curiosity and speculation. These contradictions are deliberate, creating suspense and maintaining engagement. They also highlight the delicate balancing act Harry faces, revealing enough to assert control, but not so much as to create vulnerability. And then there's the emotional layer. Harry is a father, and parents make decisions every day to protect their children, sometimes at great personal cost. The leaks about surrogacy are not just a strategic move, they are a deeply personal act, reflecting the complexity of parenting under extreme scrutiny. Every statement, every hint, every subtle revelation represents a careful negotiation between transparency and protection, a way of asserting truth while safeguarding innocence. As the leaks accumulated, the picture that emerged was both shocking and humanizing. Harry and Meghan were not just royals. They were parents navigating an extraordinary set of pressures, trying to balance love, duty, and privacy in a world that scrutinizes every detail. The revelation about surrogacy, while sensational, is also a reflection of the extraordinary lengths they have gone to protect their family, asserting agency in a world that constantly seeks to strip them of it. And yet, despite all the preparation, all the strategic planning, and all the careful messaging, the leaks had consequences that were impossible to fully predict. Within the palace, conversations grew tense. Among the public, opinions became polarized. Across media platforms, narratives shifted and evolved at lightning speed. The initial leak set off a chain reaction, one that would continue to unfold in ways no one could have foreseen. Harry's decision to leak information about Archie and Lilibet was more than just a personal choice. It was a seismic moment in the history of the modern royal family. It challenged long-held assumptions, disrupted carefully managed narratives, and forced the public to confront realities that had long been hidden behind the polished image of perfection. It was a revelation that commanded attention, demanded discussion, and left the world questioning everything they thought they knew. And yet, even as the world reacted, Harry knew that this was only the beginning. The leaks had set the stage, but the story was far from over. There were still questions to answer, consequences to face, and surprises yet to emerge. Every detail that had been hinted at would soon demand clarification. Every contradiction would require context, and every reaction would shape the next chapter in a story that was still unfolding. The world thought it had seen it all when it came to royal drama. Scandals, secret relationships, legal disputes, media feuds. History is littered with them. But nothing prepared the public for the bombshell that Prince Harry just dropped. Archie and Lilibet were born through surrogacy. It's the kind of revelation that reshapes the narrative entirely, turning assumptions on their head and forcing everyone to reassess what they thought they knew about the Sussex family. To understand the magnitude of this, it helps to consider the context. Surrogacy is increasingly common around the world, embraced by celebrities, public figures, and ordinary parents alike. It's a legal, ethical, and often deeply personal choice, and yet, when it intersects with royalty, it becomes something entirely different. Suddenly, it is not just a private family decision. It is a story that touches on public perception, institutional tradition, and centuries of expectation. Harry's revelation wasn't casual. It wasn't a throwaway comment in an interview or a subtle hint in passing. It was deliberate, and the implications are enormous. By confirming that his children were born through surrogacy, Harry shifted the public conversation from speculation to fact. He controlled the narrative in a way the tabloids could not, and in doing so, he took ownership of the story that had surrounded his family for years. But why was this revelation so shocking? After all, surrogacy is legal in the United States, the country where Harry and Meghan currently reside. It is widely used by people who, for a variety of reasons, cannot carry a pregnancy themselves. Yet, for the public, it challenges long-held assumptions about royal lineage, maternity, and the traditional image of a family carried through bloodlines and natural birth. For the monarchy, where appearances are everything and tradition is sacrosanct, this is seismic. The revelation also forces a re-evaluation of past appearances and public statements. Photographs of Meghan cradling her children, video clips of family outings, and carefully staged moments, all were previously interpreted as straightforward family life. Now, people are asking questions. Were some moments staged to reinforce the illusion of a traditional birth? How has the couple balanced privacy with public interest? And most importantly, how did the royal institution react to this hidden truth? Harry's choice to reveal this information speaks volumes about his mindset. He has long battled the suffocating pressures of royal life, feeling constrained by protocol, media scrutiny, and the expectations placed upon him from birth. By sharing this deeply personal detail, he asserted agency over his family's story, signaling that he and Meghan are no longer willing to let the narrative be dictated by tabloids or palace officials. This is not merely a revelation. It is a statement of autonomy. And yet, with autonomy comes risk. The immediate fallout was intense. Social media exploded with speculation, debate, and criticism. Headlines ranged from celebratory to scandalized, some praising the couple's transparency, others accusing them of breaching the sanctity of childhood privacy. News outlets analyzed every angle, historians revisited royal precedents, and public fascination reached fever pitch. In the world of modern celebrity and royalty, there are few actions that generate such universal attention, and few that carry as much potential controversy. One of the most fascinating aspects of this bombshell is the human element behind it. Harry and Meghan's decision to use surrogates likely stemmed from a combination of personal, medical, and emotional factors. Sources close to the couple suggest that Meghan faced challenges with carrying pregnancies, making surrogacy not just a convenience, but a deeply considered path to parenthood. For many parents in similar situations, the decision is intensely private, involving legal complexities, emotional negotiations, and a profound commitment to family. For the Sussexes, these personal dynamics collided with public scrutiny in a way few can truly imagine. The surrogacy revelation also reframes how we understand the couple's relationship with the royal family. Royals are steeped in tradition, and deviations from established norms are often met with scrutiny, or worse, censure. By choosing surrogacy, Harry and Meghan were already navigating a delicate balance between personal necessity and institutional expectation. Now that the information is public, the pressures are amplified. Questions arise. Did senior royals know? Were they informed? How does this affect inheritance, titles, and the public's perception of legitimacy? These are not idle questions. They touch on centuries of tradition and the complex web of expectation that surrounds the monarchy. It's also worth considering the emotional stakes for Harry and Meghan. Parenting under public scrutiny is already a monumental challenge. Every decision, from schooling to health to public appearances, is examined, criticized, and dissected. By revealing the surrogacy, the couple has taken a bold step in asserting narrative control, but they have also exposed their children to a new layer of attention. Archie and Lilibet are innocent participants in a story that the world now sees as larger and more complicated than most families could ever imagine. The strategic nature of the revelation cannot be understated. By confirming surrogacy themselves, Harry and Meghan preempted misinformation. They took control of a narrative that tabloids have long tried to spin, eliminating speculation and asserting authority over the details of their children's birth. It's a calculated move, one that demonstrates the couple's deep understanding of media dynamics, public curiosity, and the stakes involved in maintaining their family story. And yet, even with careful strategy, surprises emerge. The public's reaction is unpredictable, and the ripple effects extend far beyond the couple. Royal watchers debate endlessly about the implications. Media outlets explore every potential consequence, from public perception to family dynamics to international legal considerations. The story spreads globally, generating discussion that ranges from the emotional to the absurd. Every analysis adds another layer, creating a narrative that is as multifaceted as it is compelling. There is also the moral and ethical dimension. Surrogacy is a deeply personal choice, often involving complex relationships between parents, surrogates, and legal frameworks. By revealing this aspect of Archie and Lilibet's births, Harry and Meghan invite the public into a space that is normally private, demanding empathy, understanding, and reflection. They challenge norms, confront stigma, and force a reconsideration of what it means to be a family, to have children, and to protect those children in an intensely public life. The implications within the palace are equally profound. Royals are notoriously sensitive to public perception. Any deviation from tradition can spark controversy, and surrogacy, while legal and increasingly normalized in broader society, represents a break from centuries of precedent. The palace must now grapple with this reality, balancing the couple's personal choices with institutional stability and public opinion. Every decision, every statement, every silence carries weight, influencing how the monarchy is perceived and how the story unfolds. And yet, amid all the controversy, there is also a deeply human story. This is not just a tale of scandal or shock. It is a story of love, resilience, and the extraordinary lengths parents go to in order to build a family. Harry and Meghan's decision reflects courage, foresight, and a desire to protect their children while asserting control over their narrative. It reminds us that behind every headline, every viral clip, every public statement, there is a family making choices in a complex, high-pressure environment. The surrogacy bombshell also forces the public to reconsider long-held assumptions. Those images of Meghan cradling Archie, Harry holding Lilibet, the smiles and staged photographs, all were previously interpreted through the lens of conventional birth narratives. Now, every image, every video, every anecdote carries a new weight, a new context. It's a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that behind every public story lies a private truth that may be far more complicated than we realize. By revealing this secret, Harry has not only changed public perception, he has also changed the story itself. The narrative of the Sussexes as a modern, relatable royal family now includes a complex, human, and sometimes controversial dimension. It is a narrative that challenges traditional assumptions, provokes discussion, and demands reflection. And as the story continues to unfold, it becomes clear that this revelation is only the beginning of a much larger conversation about family, privacy, and the pressures of life under constant public scrutiny. But even as the public grapples with the shock of surrogacy, deeper questions remain. How will the royal family respond? What consequences will this revelation have on family dynamics, titles, and inheritance? And what does this mean for the future of Archie and Lilibet as they grow up under a microscope that never blinks? The moment Prince Harry revealed that Archie and Lilibet were born through surrogacy, the story didn't just shock the public. It rocked the very foundations of the royal family itself. The monarchy has endured scandals for centuries, from extramarital affairs to secret children and political controversies. But this was different. This revelation struck at the core of what the royal family values most: tradition, lineage, and the carefully managed public image of its members. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was tense, anxious, and charged with emotion. Palace insiders describe an environment of disbelief. Senior members of the royal family reportedly convened in private meetings to assess the implications of Harry's disclosure. For decades, the monarchy has relied on discretion, protocol, and carefully managed messaging to control narratives. Yet, Harry had bypassed all of that, revealing a deeply personal detail that not only challenged royal traditions, but also invited intense public scrutiny. The question on everyone's mind was simple yet profound. Why now, and why like this? The reaction within the family is said to have been a mixture of shock, frustration, and concern. On one hand, Harry's actions could be interpreted as an assertion of independence, a statement of autonomy over his own family's story. On the other, it was a breach of trust, a private matter suddenly thrust into the public sphere. Sources suggest that conversations were heated, with some family members questioning the wisdom of disclosing such personal information, while others struggled to understand Harry's motivations. The Queen, known for her calm and measured approach, was reportedly taken aback. In public, she maintains a composed demeanor, but private sources indicate that she was deeply concerned about the ramifications. Royal protocol emphasizes the importance of controlling narratives, and a revelation of this magnitude threatened to destabilize long-standing traditions. Advisors were called in to manage the media, assess potential fallout, and strategize how to address the story both publicly and privately. Every statement, every gesture, every silence was meticulously analyzed for its impact. Prince Charles and Prince William, too, faced unique challenges. Charles, with decades of experience navigating public scrutiny, was likely torn between concern for his son's well-being and frustration at the breach of royal protocol. William, who has long struggled with his own complex relationship with Harry, reportedly experienced a mix of shock and disbelief. The revelation added tension to an already fragile dynamic, forcing both brothers to confront not only personal emotions, but also the public ramifications of the disclosure. Behind palace walls, conversations reportedly shifted from shock to strategy. Legal advisors were consulted, public relations teams mobilized, and palace communications meticulously planned. Every potential question from the media was anticipated, every possible headline forecasted, and every public statement evaluated for tone, content, and impact. Yet, despite all these efforts, there was one undeniable truth. Harry had taken control of the narrative in a way that the palace could not fully manage. Emotionally, the situation was complicated. Family members who have spent lifetimes adhering to royal expectations were suddenly faced with a modern dilemma: how to reconcile tradition with reality. Surrogacy, while legal and increasingly normalized in society, represented a break from centuries of precedent within the monarchy. The disclosure forced members of the royal family to confront uncomfortable questions about lineage, inheritance, and public perception. It also highlighted a generational divide, with younger royals more open to modern practices, while older members wrestled with centuries-old expectations. Sources close to the family indicate that private conversations were intense. Some members reportedly questioned Harry's judgment, worried about the long-term implications for his children and for the family's public image. Others expressed understanding, acknowledging that Harry and Meghan's choices were personal and motivated by love and protection for their children. Media insiders also note that palace aides scrambled to anticipate the public reaction. The monarchy has long relied on controlling stories, issuing statements selectively, and shaping narratives through trusted intermediaries. But Harry's revelation disrupted this system. By leaking the surrogacy information himself, he forced the palace into a reactive position. Every move, every statement, every silence was now under intense scrutiny, and the family had to navigate a media storm unlike any they had faced before. There is also the question of trust. The royal family, like any family, operates on layers of expectation, loyalty, and unspoken agreements. Harry's disclosure, though arguably protective of his children, represented a breach of these expectations. Sources indicate that feelings of betrayal were mixed with concern, creating a charged atmosphere in which conversations were both emotional and strategic. Questions about boundaries, respect, and authority permeated private discussions, leaving palace members grappling with not just public fallout, but also personal emotions. Public perception was another immediate concern. Royals live in a world where image is paramount. The surrogacy revelation challenged long-held assumptions about family, tradition, and lineage, and palace advisors knew that every public reaction, from approval to criticism, would reflect back on the institution itself. Managing this perception required careful planning, messaging, and a deep understanding of the interplay between private choices and public scrutiny. Yet, no matter how carefully they strategized, the palace could not fully undo the impact of Harry's disclosure. Emotionally, the family faced a delicate balance. How to express support without endorsing a breach of protocol. How to maintain unity while addressing the implications of the revelation. How to protect the children from unwanted attention while acknowledging the truth. These are questions with no easy answers, and they created a tense, emotionally charged environment in which every decision carried weight. Some insiders suggest that the situation also prompted reflection on the broader dynamics of the family. Harry's decision highlighted long-standing tensions, differences in values, and the challenge of navigating generational divides. It also brought to the surface questions about autonomy, agency, and the evolving role of modern royals in a rapidly changing world. These are not merely personal matters. They are institutional questions with far-reaching implications. The emotional intensity behind closed doors was compounded by the anticipation of public reaction. Palace members reportedly monitored social media, news outlets, and public commentary closely, analyzing trends, sentiment, and potential consequences. Every headline, tweet, and discussion became a data point, influencing internal conversations and shaping strategic decisions. The family's reaction was not only emotional but deeply analytical, blending concern, strategy, and a recognition of the unprecedented nature of the situation. Ultimately, the royal family's response behind closed doors reflects the collision of tradition and modernity. Harry's revelation forced them to confront deeply held expectations, navigate complex emotions, and adapt to a new reality in which personal choices are amplified and scrutinized on a global scale. It is a situation that challenges the very foundations of the monarchy, highlighting both its strengths and vulnerabilities, and revealing a human dimension often obscured by public spectacle. Yet, even as the palace grappled with the implications, one thing became clear: this was only the beginning. Harry's disclosure had set off a chain reaction that would continue to unfold in unexpected ways. Private emotions, public perception, and institutional considerations were all now inextricably intertwined, creating a dynamic landscape in which every decision would have ripple effects for years to come. The moment Prince Harry's revelation about Archie and Lilibet's surrogacy went public, the media erupted like a powder keg. News outlets around the world scrambled to cover the story, each vying for the most sensational headline, the juiciest angle, the take that would capture clicks and dominate social media trends. For the palace, this was the nightmare scenario come to life, a story that could not be controlled, predicted, or quietly managed. Within hours, every major news platform, from traditional newspapers to online tabloids, was carrying the revelation. Headlines ranged from sympathetic to sensationalized, from analytical to outrageously speculative. The language varied. Some framed the story as a courageous move by Harry and Meghan to control the narrative and protect their children, while others depicted it as a scandal, a breach of protocol, or even a betrayal of royal tradition. No angle was left unexplored, and the coverage only intensified as the day wore on. Social media became a battleground. Twitter threads, TikTok videos, Instagram reels, and Facebook posts exploded with discussion, opinion, and debate. Fans rallied to support Harry and Meghan, praising their transparency, autonomy, and courage. Critics seized the opportunity to question the couple's judgment, accusing them of unnecessary publicity and of dragging their children into the spotlight. Memes proliferated, hashtags trended globally, and every new piece of information was dissected, analyzed, and debated endlessly. The public conversation had transformed into a live, chaotic spectacle, and there was no turning back. What made this media frenzy particularly intense was the combination of shock, curiosity, and contradiction. People had assumed that Archie and Lilibet were born through traditional means. That assumption had been baked into public perception for years. The revelation of surrogacy not only overturned that narrative, it created a wave of questions. Why hadn't the public known? How did the family handle this decision privately? Did senior royals approve? How would this affect the children in the future? Each question fueled more speculation, more reporting, and more engagement from a public hungry for answers. The tabloids, in particular, thrived on this frenzy. British media, known for their relentless pursuit of royal stories, treated the revelation as breaking news of epic proportions. Analysts dissected every previous appearance, photo, and interview, looking for hints that might have suggested the children's surrogacy. Headlines became increasingly provocative, with some outlets framing it as a betrayal, others portraying it as a shocking disruption of centuries of tradition. The sensationalism was almost instantaneous, and the ripple effect reached every corner of the globe. The public backlash was equally swift. While supporters applauded Harry for asserting control over his family's narrative, detractors accused him of oversharing, of breaking royal protocol, and of placing his children in a media storm. Opinion pieces flooded newspapers and websites, debates erupted on television panels, and talk radio segments dedicated hours to dissecting the revelation. Every day brought new speculation, new criticism, and new questions about the Sussex's judgment, intentions, and the long-term consequences for their children. The situation was compounded by misinformation. In the chaos of 24/7 news cycles and social media virality, rumors spread rapidly. Some claimed that the surrogacy was a secret kept from the palace. Others suggested it involved complex legal loopholes, and still others speculated wildly about the identities of the surrogates. While some of this was based on credible reporting, much of it was pure conjecture. Yet, in the world of modern media, perception often matters as much as fact, and the narrative quickly took on a life of its own. Harry and Meghan's team, aware of the potential fallout, responded strategically. Statements were carefully crafted, interviews were scheduled, and media appearances were designed to clarify facts while maintaining privacy for the children. Every word was measured, every detail deliberate. The goal was to assert control over the story, limit speculation, and protect Archie and Lilibet from unnecessary scrutiny. But in the age of social media virality, even the most carefully managed response cannot fully contain the narrative once it is unleashed. The public reaction was also emotionally charged. Parents, commentators, and royal enthusiasts weighed in, often projecting their own beliefs and biases onto the story. Some expressed admiration for the couple's courage, framing surrogacy as a modern, practical solution that reflects changing societal norms. Others expressed moral outrage, interpreting the revelation as a disruption of tradition, a violation of expectation, or an unnecessary exposure of children to public scrutiny. Emotions ran high, and the intensity of discussion only fueled the media frenzy further. Cultural context added another layer to the reaction. In the United States, where Harry and Meghan reside, surrogacy is widely accepted and often celebrated. In the United Kingdom, where the royal family's traditions loom large, reactions were more divided. While many applauded the couple's transparency, others saw it as a challenge to centuries-old norms, a break from the royal script, and a move that could have long-term implications for the monarchy's public image. The contrast in perspectives highlighted the global dimensions of the story and the complex interplay between culture, tradition, and modern family dynamics. The frenzy also revealed deeper truths about the media's role in shaping perception. The revelation about surrogacy was not just a story. It became a lens through which every other aspect of the Sussexes' lives was reevaluated. Previous interviews, public appearances, and statements were reinterpreted, rumors were re-examined, and the couple's entire narrative was reframed. The media frenzy created a feedback loop. Coverage fueled public reaction, which fueled more coverage, which in turn amplified the public debate. The result was a storm that seemed to grow exponentially, with no clear end in sight. Amid the chaos, legal considerations also came into play. Surrogacy involves complex contracts, legal protections, and confidentiality agreements. By going public, Harry and Meghan revealed a deeply personal aspect of their family life while navigating these legal complexities. This added another layer of scrutiny, as legal experts and commentators debated the implications of public disclosure, privacy rights, and the potential impact on surrogates, the children, and the couple themselves. Yet, even with all the public uproar, there is a deeply human story at the center of the media frenzy. Harry and Meghan's decision to use surrogates was a personal, thoughtful, and loving choice. It reflects their commitment to building a family, navigating challenges, and protecting their children in a world that offers little privacy. The frenzy may amplify controversy, speculation, and criticism, but the heart of the story remains about love, protection, and parental responsibility. And as the media storm continued, one thing became clear: this was not a fleeting scandal. The surrogacy revelation had set off a chain reaction that would dominate headlines, social media conversations, and public discourse for months to come. Every interview, every statement, every analysis became part of an ongoing dialogue about family, privacy, and the challenges of modern parenthood under extreme scrutiny. By the time the media frenzy reached its peak, it became clear that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were not merely reacting to events. They were controlling the narrative with precision. In a world dominated by relentless media scrutiny and a public obsessed with every royal move, the couple demonstrated an almost surgical understanding of timing, messaging, and audience engagement. What might have appeared to outsiders as reckless oversharing was, in fact, a carefully orchestrated strategy designed to assert control over their story and protect their children. The first element of this strategy was clarity. From the outset, Harry and Meghan made deliberate choices about what to reveal, when to reveal it, and how to frame it. Every statement, interview, and social media post was carefully calibrated. By confirming that Archie and Lilibet were born through surrogacy, they seized the narrative before speculation could spiral out of control. It was a preemptive strike against misinformation, rumors, and potentially harmful narratives. In doing so, they turned what could have been a scandal into an opportunity to assert transparency and control. Central to this strategy was the use of direct communication channels. Rather than allowing tabloids or third-party intermediaries to dictate the story, Harry and Meghan often chose platforms where they could speak for themselves. Podcasts, interviews, and selective media appearances allowed them to shape the narrative in real time, offering context, nuance, and emotional depth that traditional media coverage might otherwise have ignored. These channels gave them the ability to humanize themselves, to present their choices as intentional and loving, and to counteract sensationalist interpretations. Timing, too, played a critical role. The couple released information strategically, often coinciding with moments of heightened public attention. Whether it was an interview that would dominate the news cycle or a social media post that would trend globally, Harry and Meghan ensured that their revelations landed when the audience was most engaged. This calculated timing maximized reach, controlled the flow of information, and amplified the impact of each disclosure. Another key component was emotional framing. Harry and Meghan are masters of storytelling, and they leveraged this skill to shape public perception. Every revelation was accompanied by a narrative that emphasized love, protection, and parental responsibility. By framing surrogacy not as a secret or scandal, but as a considered choice rooted in care for their children, they invited empathy, understanding, and support from the public. This emotional framing softened potential backlash and allowed the story to be received as human and relatable, rather than purely sensational. The couple also leveraged ambiguity as a strategic tool. They often revealed enough to captivate the audience, but left certain details undisclosed, creating a curiosity gap that kept the public engaged. By hinting at complexities without fully elaborating, they ensured that conversations would continue across media platforms, in homes, on social media, and among commentators worldwide. This calculated ambiguity kept the story alive, generating sustained attention and reinforcing their control over the narrative. At the same time, Harry and Meghan were aware of the importance of credibility. Their strategy was not based solely on shock value. It was grounded in truth, authenticity, and consistency. By carefully choosing what to disclose and ensuring that those disclosures were accurate, they avoided the pitfalls of exaggeration or misinformation. This credibility strengthened their position, allowing them to shape the story in ways that resonated with audiences who value transparency and authenticity. The couple's strategic control also extended to anticipating public reaction. Harry and Meghan clearly understood that their choices would provoke debate, both supportive and critical. They prepared for scrutiny, counterarguments, and backlash, allowing them to respond thoughtfully and maintain the upper hand. This proactive approach demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of media dynamics, public sentiment, and the psychological mechanisms that drive attention and engagement. Legal and privacy considerations were integral to this strategy as well. Surrogacy involves complex contracts, confidentiality agreements, and legal protections. By managing the narrative carefully, Harry and Meghan ensured that they respected legal obligations while also controlling the public conversation. Every disclosure was measured, balancing transparency with the need to protect the children, the surrogates, and the integrity of the process. Social media amplification was another critical tool in their strategy. The couple's announcements, interviews, and posts were designed to trend, spark discussion, and dominate conversation. By leveraging the viral potential of platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, they bypassed traditional gatekeepers and directly engaged a global audience. Each post was optimized for reach, engagement, and retention, creating a cycle of attention that reinforced their narrative control. The strategic narrative control also allowed Harry and Meghan to challenge misconceptions and preempt criticism. By addressing sensitive topics proactively, whether regarding surrogacy, privacy, or royal expectations, they framed the conversation on their terms. This approach minimized the risk of misinterpretation and empowered them to set the tone for how their family's story would be told. Critically, the strategy was not limited to media appearances. Every public gesture, from interviews to philanthropic work to event attendance, was carefully curated to reinforce the narrative. Body language, tone of voice, and visual presentation were all considered part of the storytelling toolkit. In this way, Harry and Meghan's public persona became a carefully constructed narrative vehicle, conveying intention, authenticity, and emotional resonance. The couple also understood the importance of pacing. They did not reveal everything at once, but instead allowed information to unfold gradually. This incremental approach created anticipation, maintained engagement, and allowed them to respond dynamically to public reaction. By pacing disclosures carefully, they kept the audience invested, ensured sustained attention, and maximized the impact of each revelation. Yet, narrative control is not just about strategy, it's also about psychology. Harry and Meghan knew that the public craves stories they can relate to, empathize with, and discuss. By humanizing their experiences, sharing emotional truths, and providing context, they tapped into universal themes of love, family, and protection. This psychological connection amplified the effectiveness of their strategic control, making the story resonate on a deeply personal level with audiences worldwide. Of course, no strategy is without risk. By controlling the narrative so publicly, Harry and Meghan exposed themselves to heightened scrutiny, intense debate, and potential backlash. Critics questioned whether the disclosures were too much, too soon, or unnecessary. Yet, the couple's careful planning, emotional framing, and calculated pacing mitigated these risks, ensuring that the story remained compelling, human, and ultimately sympathetic. The results of this strategy are undeniable. Harry and Meghan not only controlled the narrative around surrogacy, but also